Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is a voice actress, best known for Clarabelle Cow, being the voice of Clarabelle in Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Mickey Mouse Funhouse, Mickey and the Roadster Racers, and pretty much most modern day Mickey Mouse media. Mrs. Herman and Baby Herman in the Who Framed Roger Rabbit franchise, Miss Finster in Recess, Peg Pete in Goof Troop, Cruella De Vil in 101 Dalmatians The Series, Nora Nebulon in Lloyd in Space, the Yoga Princess, the Sing-Song Bird, and the Slippery Serpent in Jake and the Neverland Pirates. That sounds like a children's story, that, with all those characters. The Yoga Princess, the Sing-Song Bird, and the Slippery Serpent. The Yoga, the Bird, and the Serpent. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe sounds like, really, but yeah. My guest is the daughter of famous actor Paul Winchell. I'm delighted to welcome April Winchell to my show. Welcome.
Thank you, Amber. I'm sorry it's taken so long for this to happen. We talked about it for a long time. Here we are. So Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's definitely great to have you here. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I just started a new show day before yesterday. I started Minnie's Camp Minnie. So all like the gang on camping trips. They said my part's like the cruise director, always in charge of like what everybody's doing. It's very cute so far. And it's Mickey, Minnie, Daisy, the whole gang camping, or glamping as they call it. And then Mickey Mouse Funhouse just got picked up for a third season. So I've been working on those, and life's good. No complaints.
May I ask, who is the voice director for Camp Minnie?
It is Kelly Ward.
Hey, yes. Legend.
Kelly does all the Mickey Mouse Funhouse, Playhouse, Clubhouse,
Roadster Races.
Yeah, all that. And he's
Next Up Adventures. I met him.
Yep,
I met him.
That's it. I love him. He's a really good person.
So really lovely. Super lovely, honestly.
Very lovely. Every time, we all do everything by Zoom still, right? And I live in Vegas, so I'm not there anyway. So as soon as I get to work and all the cameras come on, I see everybody, and I see Kelly. I always feel great to see him, and he's always got some Disney background on Zoom behind him that he's put. It's always like he's in Walt's office, or yesterday he was in front of the Carnation Ice Cream Pavilion. So it's really, I always look forward to see what he's going to do next. So yeah, he's a doll. I love him.
It must be so cool to do a recording session with him, because he's not just a voice director, he's also doing a little bit of voice acting as well, but he's also mainly known as an actor because he played Pudsey in the original film Grease. Did you know that?
I did. And he also was in, this is kind of like out there, but there was the show, I don't know if you've ever heard of the show, but in the 70s, and it was called Quincy. And it was about it was very modern for its time, and it was about a forensic, like the coroner in Los Angeles and all of his cases, and it tried to tackle a lot of what it perceived to be, modern issues, like the one I'm thinking of in particular was like punk rock, and how it's dangerous and stuff. And the episode I'm speaking of showed a bunch of like punks at a concert, and Kelly was one of them, which I love. So there he is with like a mohawk and earrings. He's like, "Hey man, be cool, man. It's just music, man. It's so bad." I just love it. I've seen reruns every once in a while on cable. It's so funny. I love it. It's probably on YouTube. You should try to look for it.
I'll definitely look for it after this. I have a DVD of Grease on like my desk over there that's sealed in cellophane. I've never seen Grease before, unfortunately.
Really?
Oh.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I've got to watch it. I promised Kelly I would watch it. To be fair, I felt quite ashamed that I'd never seen Grease before. Like, everyone else was there because he was in Grease. I was like, I'm only here because you're a voice director. And
you either love it or you'll be like, wow, okay.
My mum was really surprised when she found out. She was like, "Oh my, wait, you met Pudsey from Grease?" I'm like, "Yeah, they had like tons of cast members there." And she has zero interest in Comic Cons, but then like this one time, she wishes that she went with me. I'm like, "Oh, come on." Would have been cool.
They always have really interesting people at those cons, like you never thought you would see, right? And a lot of people who did a lot of on-camera stuff, like in the old shows, like old Star Trek and stuff like that, or old-time actors. It's really fun to see. And then people you didn't even know did voice work. So it's always a surprise when you go to those. I really enjoy them. And the panels are great too.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of different for British Comic Cons. I know, like in America, there's tons of Comic Cons like all across like the 50 or something states. A lot of them tend to have voice actors, and I mean a lot of them. There's a Sci-Fi Valley in Altoona. Where's that? Is that Philadelphia or Pennsylvania? I can't.
It sounds like Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
there we go. It's currently going ahead, and it's got all four of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles there. So that's Barry Gordon, Townsend Coleman, Cam Clark, and Rob Paulson. It's also got there.
It was at Unicon in Vegas last year. All four of them were there, and they were in front of that, like a vehicle, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was like a replica of the vehicle that they drove in the series that somebody had, created and made, and all of them were there. It was so Cam, and it was just really fun to see all of them, and they're all, it was great.
That's lovely. Also, there is at this convention in Altoona, it's like E.G. Daily, Billy West. Who else was there? Corey Walgren was meant to go, but she cancelled. So Grady Lyles replaced her. Nolan North cancelled. So Roger Clark's replaced him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what wonderful people, all of them. When I lived in LA, Billy West and I found out that we went to the same gym. And one day I walked in, he was on a, on the recumbent bicycle, and I was like, hello. He goes, hello. So from then on, we just sat on the bikes doing our hour of, talking about everybody and gossiping and stuff. It was really fun. He's lovely. I love him to pieces. He's a great guy.
He is wonderful indeed.
Bad to say about cartoon. I mean, I have plenty to say about people that's not flattering, but mostly cartoon people, wonderful. Like just such deep, like Rob Paulson. I mean, he's like, they should put him on a stamp. He is a saint. He's just a saint. He is one of the kindest, most genuine, grateful, decent people and Corey Burton too, just really good people. Rob spends a lot of time at those cons with people who are like nonverbal and people for whom coming out and doing this is a big deal, and he never just, speeds through it or like, there you go. He will talk and shit. He's like, I think he's in it for that. Do you know what I mean? I don't think he's in it for acting or for the money. He's really in it to connect with people and to, make meaningful experiences for people. I think he's just an amazing person. Amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Sadly, I've never met him because he's never done a con in England, surprisingly. Well, he has done in Dublin.
He would if somebody asked him. I bet if someone invited him, he would. He loves them.
I keep requesting to all the Comic Cons in here. They just won't invite them because there's not enough popular demand for him. I'm like, I've met a lot of people who want Rob to come to the UK, so.
For the Turtles? That's weird, but okay.
Also for like Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brains, that's like with Maurice and Marshall, Jess Harnell and Trez McNeil.
Maybe bigger than that. Yeah, wild.
It's crazy, honestly. And the closest he's ever been to England is probably Dublin. He did Dublin Comic Con this March. I couldn't go because I had a family emergency, so couldn't rate him. But yeah, I know a few people who did go, and he was really lovely. So hopefully, he'll do a con in England over here because he was put down to do Wales Comic Con back in April. That's where I met Will Friedle and Kevin Conroy, the two Batmen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes.
So Rob and Maurice were put down as maybes for that event, but they didn't end up coming. But yeah, maybe
Maurice, another person. Maurice is like the hearts and souls of these people are just. I sound so corny, but I mean, I've just never had a bat like Kevin Michael Richardson and Mark Hamill. I mean, I
love Mark Hamill. He's the best Joker. I tell you that now.
He's such a good man, it's really funny. I'm trying to think of when this was. This is before my husband John and I left LA. So this was like 2004. No, 2014. Sorry, 2014. And we went to Kevin Michael Richardson's birthday party on a boat in Marina del Rey. They rented a boat. It was really fun. And we get on the boat and there's Mark Hamill. And Mark's like really shaggy and I have a picture I should show it to you. Real shaggy and bearded, because he's doing the Star Wars where he, and so my husband sees him and he's like, this was, he didn't even know that I knew him, much less that he would be there. He just hadn't put that together or whatever. And he saw him and he was like grabbing my hand, like, it's Mark Hamill. It's Mark Hamill. I said, oh yeah. So Mark sees me and he comes over to me and he says to me, April, he goes, I gotta tell you, this is 2014. So this is like years later, right? He goes, I was so happy when you got Cruella De Vil, and you were so good in that show. And I was really pulling for you. And when you got it, I was so happy. And you did such good work. Just like really effusive, you know? And I was like, thank you. And I look over at my husband. He's like can't even breathe. He can't believe it. Like, not only do I know him, but he's being nice to me, you know? So, that's like one of my husband's favorite memories ever, to just be in his presence. And so this last year was my husband's 50th birthday. So I wrote to Mark and I said, hey, I said, if you have like a minute, I know people always ask you for stuff, but my husband just loves you. Could you just like do like a really quick, like 10 seconds, happy birthday, John? He's like, sure. He got back. He did like 10 minutes of just like talking and remembering meeting John and that evening. And he was like so generous. These people just blow my mind. Just, I mean, you have to imagine what his email is like, you know, what the asks are of somebody like that, what people are constantly asking.
Mark Hamill, I want to interview you.
He's beautiful, beautiful person. Beautiful person. I feel very fortunate that my paths crossed with him. Brad Garrett, another person who he actually is like a really close friend, but he married us. He was the one who performed the ceremony in Vegas. So he's so funny. He said, so you know, he talks like this. He goes, so what do I do? I said, well, I don't know. You know, it's like, just do whatever. And he goes, well, can I be dirty? Can I tell dirty jokes? I said, yeah, do whatever you want. I don't care. It's fine. And then he said, well, what do you do when you marry somebody? I said, well, they read a book, right? Like they bring a book and they read past it. And he's like, okay. So we go to Vegas. My friends are there. He walks in to do the ceremony. My husband's family's like, I mean, we didn't tell anybody, you know. So he walks in, all like 7 foot of him walks in. And he starts doing the ceremony. He's like telling jokes and making fun of everybody in our family and everything. And then he takes the book out, and it's Poker for Dummies is the book that he brings with us. And he's reading from it like he's reading from, you know, like some sacred testament. It was really funny. It was hilarious. That's like the only wedding video I've ever seen where you actually want to watch it again, because it was so funny. He was great.
May I ask, whenabouts did you get married? What year?
Well, I was married to my late ex-husband. We married in 1996. And we were married until 2012, so really long time, but we had been separated for many years. And I met my husband in 2005, and he and I got married in, it'll be 9 years this year.
Oh, right, so that was after your dad died then.
Yeah, you know what was funny was that my dad died a month to the day before I met John. So John and I had been corresponding a lot because I met him on MySpace. If you can.
Oh, I know what it is. It's okay.
I know. We like to say we met in rehab because it's less embarrassing than saying that we met on MySpace. But we met on MySpace, and we'd been talking for like a month, you know, and playing Scrabble online and stuff like that, but never met. Something just always came up. And so my dad dies, and then like a month to the day of his death, John and I finally go out on our first date. So we go out on our date, we're having dinner, and he's like a little different in person. I can't put my finger on what's going on, but he's got something on his mind, right? I don't know what it is. Finally, he stops. I'm having a good time. I think he's really cute. Everything's great, but there's something off. And finally he stops and like puts his fork down. He looks at me and he goes, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. You know, I'm married, right? Or I'm actually a woman, or, you know, I have 18 children, or I don't know. So I'm a foot person. Who knows what it's going to be. So he says, I have a tattoo. And I went, oh, well, okay. That's not a big deal. That's fine. I don't have a problem with tattoos. He goes, yeah, but I don't know how you're going to feel about this tattoo. And I said, well, what is it? Where is it? Is it, you know, is it, no, it's on my back. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? He goes, you know, and he's just hemming and hawing. And I said, just tell me whatever it is. I'm sure it's fine. He goes, it's Tigger. And I thought, really, a month to the day, you know, that my dad died, and this guy that I met has a Tigger tattoo on his back. And I was like, it was just such a weird, like, bolt from the blue that I just thought that's just the most bizarre coincidence that I mean, and I've always sort of thought of him as somebody that like my dad kind of went, this is the guy you should. I don't know why I'm not a very spiritual person necessarily, but I always kind of think of it as like here, take this. This is, and he was the one, So yeah, that was pretty crazy, and very strange. And he was he's younger than me, so he was an usher at a movie theater when Roger Rabbit came out. He said, I liked it so much, I watched it like 3 times. And I said, could you have imagined that my wife, the woman I'm going to marry, is in that movie? And he was like, how, never in a million years did I think that was going to happen. So,
wow. What a strange coincidence. Yeah.
Very, very weird.
I had something in my head, but it's completely gone. I'm trying to remember what it is.
Is it about my dad?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. Oh man, I'm trying to think. What was it? Oh yeah. I remember. I think this is right. If it's not, I do apologize. Mark Evanier told me, because I know you weren't that close to your dad when he died, that you actually found out about his death via his blog. Is that true?
Sort of. We hadn't spoken in a while, and I got a call from a friend of mine who was a good friend with a guy named Mark Summers. Mark Summers, I don't know if you would know him, but he was like a kind of a producer, sort of a guy on Food Network, and he also hosted a show called Runaround for Kids, and he wrote a book about having obsessive compulsive disorder, and was just like a personality with a lot of interesting facets. And he was one of my dad's friends, and he was also a friend of my friend Mark Germain, who had a radio show in LA and whose show I was on a lot. And Mark called me like out of the blue, and he goes, I got to tell you something. I said, yeah. And he goes, your dad died. And I went, okay, I'm gonna hang up now. I need to like sit with that for a little bit. So he goes, okay, if you need to know anything, call me back. And so I sat with it for a while, and I called him back and I said, okay, how did you know? He said, my friend Mark Summers knew, and he called me to tell me, because your dad had left instructions, this is weird, that none of his children were to know about his passing because he wanted them to hear it on the news. And he said, Mark felt like that wasn't very nice, so he wanted me to tell you so that you would have a heads up. And I was like, just very random and strange. So I don't know what was in his head or why, but that was his decision. So yeah, that's how I found out. But
we
had a hard, it was hard because he had a lot of problems. And I didn't really understand his problems for a long time. And my process was to just not talk about him ever, because I felt like if I were negative about him and I said a lot of bad things about him.
It's fine. Go ahead.
If I said a lot of bad things about him, I didn't think that'd be fair, because that was my personal experience. And I thought, I don't want to like crap all over someone's childhood. He was Tigger, he was Gargamel on the Smurfs, he was on like the Care Bears, he was one of the Banana Splits, he was like Dick Dastardly, he was all these iconic sort of cartoon. I didn't want to do that. It didn't feel right. Yeah. And then he wrote a book about his life, and was really unkind in the way he portrayed my mother. And I got very defensive about that. And so I went on the attack. And knowing now what I know, he had a right, he had a right to feel that way. But I was, you're a kid, you're in a divorce, you don't get the whole side of all the stories, you just get the story of the person that you're living with. And that's complicated if your other parent has mental illness and you don't really know about it, So to me, he looked a certain way, but I wasn't worldly or savvy enough to know who he really was. And so that I should have kept my mouth shut. But, my memories of him before their divorce and before things got weird is very positive. And in fact, let me show you a picture. Hang on.
I was going to say, yeah, you grew up with him.
Let me show you a couple I have in my office. So here's one of my favorite pictures, and this is us on a ride. I don't know if you can see this. Can you see that?
Oh, wow.
there's a bad glare in here, but I don't know if you
Oh,
can
it's okay.
see that.
Oh,
Oh, there.
that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, this is how I think of him. We always had so much fun. Right. And so then when I was 3, he had a TV show in New York and I was on it all the time. And in fact, on YouTube, there's a bunch of clips of us doing stuff together. And I didn't know really that I was on TV. I just knew people were watching us, but we had like sort of an unwritten, it's really hard to explain, but I knew I was in on the joke. At that age, I was in on the joke. I knew that it was a puppet. I knew that it was him. I got it. I was like a seasoned pro already. And so I was on that show quite a bit. And so this is a picture of me on his lap on that show that he had. I'm trying to not get a glare going here.
Wow.
So you can, I think this perfectly encapsulates our relationship, right? So he's scowling at me, I'm scowling back at him, but we're both being very professional. Yeah. So yeah, so I did a lot of his shows when I was a kid.
Wow.
And then when I got older, I went with him to every cartoon he did. And I didn't know that I wanted to do cartoons, but I just really enjoyed watching him work. So I saw him do Dick Dastardly. I saw him
Really?
do,
Wow.
yeah. I went to the old Hanna-Barbera building and watched him work, and we'd leave and go back out to his car and the dumpsters would be full of cells, hand-painted cells. And he'd say, hey, grab some of those. It was just garbage. They'd be worth millions, what was in these dumpsters, right? So, because, one cell is like, what, 1,000, 2,000, whatever. So he'd go grab those and take them, come on home, we'll color them together, like that kind of stuff. It was just, trash. And I would go to everything. I'd watch everything that he did. I was really interested. And so I watched him do Tigger. I watched him do Banana Splits. I watched him do all this stuff. And then one day when I was about 10, I went with him to do a recording session at a place called Bell Sound. And I don't remember what he was recording, but I sat there in the booth watching really carefully and just kind of getting how it works, like the takes and what he was just learning, right? And I was very, very interested in spoken word. He bought me, we didn't watch TV, we just had like records. We listened to plays and stuff like that. So he bought me a tape recorder and I was really into doing very bad impressions of famous actors, really not good, right? I do little shows. Hi, this is and I found these tapes, by the way, and I was listening to them recently. I'm like, oh God. Hi, this is the April Winchell show. And I have a really bad lisp, This is the April Winchell show. And I'm here and I'm talking to the famous John Wayne. Hello, Mr. Wayne. Well, hello there, April. It's just awful, like in my room. So I'm walking up and down the halls of this recording studio and I'm looking at all the famous people who have worked there. And I start doing my terrible impressions of them, right? Well, hi, I'm Mae West, and I'm hey, kids, come up, all the whatever I'm doing. And his agent is there and he's watching me and he says to my dad, is that your kid? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, does she want to do this? And he goes, well, she's been on my shows and acting for years, so probably. And he goes, do you think she'd want to do a cartoon? And he goes, well, yeah, probably. So at the time, they used kids to do kids' voices, like on the old Charlie Brown cartoons. You can hear they're little kids, right? Now they don't want to have a social worker and have you work for 4. They'd rather have like a 40-year-old woman do like 6 kids' voices. Then they used kids. So there was a show coming up and I auditioned for it and I got it. So I got in the union when I was 11. I did my first, cartoon when I was 11 years old. And it was called Kid Power. And it was very like 70s, like there was the gay kid and there was the women's liber kid and the black kid and the Chinese kid. It was all different kids and, colors of the rainbow kind of thing. Very progressive for the time. And I was the women's liber. And that was my first gig and I never stopped. So I got to thank my dad for that, because if I hadn't been tailing him, I probably wouldn't have gotten that opportunity. So.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, the show was based on the comic strip called Wee Pals. It was produced by...
Oh, right.
Yeah, it was produced by
Rankin Bass, and it was
Rankin
Maury
Bass.
Turner.
Yeah,
Rankin Bass, and they're the ones who did all that stop motion, Christmas stuff, and that's Rankin Bass. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, that was lucky, and I never saw Donald Full of Love, who I saw at Unicon. I saw Unicon, and I was like, I haven't seen you in like since we were 10. And he's like, I don't know who you are. And I said, well, that's okay. I understand. And I explained who I was. And he was like, oh, yeah. We're just looking at each other like, so, what have you been doing since the 70s? Well, it's like, how do you catch up with somebody? But it was, it's fun. I mean, I was happy. I'm lucky. I got that gig for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's such a lucky chance, and what a
Yeah,
beautiful
it was.
chance it was. Definitely. I'm having
Yeah,
a
it
look
was.
now.
Yeah,
Okay. What does your character was called Connie?
Connie. Yeah.
Doesn't say which one. Oh no, hang on. Here we are. Connie. Ah, right. She was like, it
Women's
looked like she
liver.
had.
Right, women's liver. And she was blonde, and she. You know, what's funny is I found a CD somewhere of all the songs from that show, and we're like in it, and I don't know how in the world, and I don't know if it's on YouTube or whatever, but we're all singing about the future and about Abe Lincoln and slave, and it's like I don't know how it exists, but okay,
Oh,
it's
you have to
crazy.
make me look this up now. Whilst I find this on YouTube, I'd like to ask you.
Yeah.
So as a kid, were there some voice actors that you met that you also met as adults? So that, say, for example, maybe Dawes Butler or Don Messick or Frank Welker, maybe.
Frank, I mean, I know, I mean, I worked with Frank. Frank was on Goof Troop and like a million other things that I did. So I knew him. And so, yes, I mean, those people were there, right? Like Don Messick and Dawes Butler, they were in those shows that I watched them record. But I had like no, I don't know how to describe this exactly, but I was in this business from the age of 3.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no suspension of disbelief. You know what I mean? It's like I never looked at a cartoon. I was like, you're that guy? Because my dad did that. And I thought everybody did that. I mean, I remember being a little kid at school and being like, oh, what show was your dad on? Because I thought that's what everybody did. So I
Yeah.
never had like that magic. They were just people, you know. But I got a little older and I met people working, and I mean, I met some people that I just could not. I mean, like the butterfly and weird people, right? Like Brock Turner was on SWAT Cats, and he was I think he's gone now, but he was a very distinguished black actor. He was in To Kill a Mockingbird, which was one of my favorite movies. And I walked into the room and I saw him and I almost passed out. You know, I mean, like that was exciting. And then I worked on um, this show that didn't go anywhere that was like the son of Blues Brothers cartoon, right? So it was like Dan Aykroyd's brother and John Belushi's brother as the brothers of the Blues Brothers. And like the whole cast was Don Novello, who was Father Guido Sarducci on the Saturday Night Live. And it's people that I kind of dug a lot. And a guy named Shelley Berman, who was a stand-up comedian when I was a kid and was one of those records that I listened to over and over and over again. And he walked in and I was like, oh my God. And I can't imagine that anybody even knew who he was, much less, you know, I was so excited. So yeah, the people that I met that were really exciting to me were probably a little off the beaten path, you know, because I met so many famous people that it didn't really mean much, you know.
Yeah, that's understandable.
When I was a kid, the way that you got work when I was a kid,
Mm-hmm.
there was no Twitter or Instagram, or you didn't network. The way you got jobs is by having dinner with people. So my mother would cook and we'd have these parties and all these famous people would come every weekend. And they'd always come into because, I wasn't allowed to come out because adults don't want to see kids at parties, is what my parents said. So they would all come into the back where I was watching TV and introduce themselves. And over the course of years, I'd meet, Adam West and Batman, and all these famous people would come back there, and the cast of the Partridge Family and the Bradys and all the, people from like all the shows that were popular at the time, Love Boat and everything. They'd all come back and introduce themselves. And I was like, hey, it's like, hi, this was business. These people were always around little, So
Yeah.
I do get starstruck, but it's rare,
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a surprise for you.
Uh-oh. All right. Oh, yes, there I am. Connie. Is this actually a clip? Oh my God.
And they said a wash Connie before. How's it coming, Connie? Well, George, I'm finally putting all those hours of home economics classes to good use. All that hard-earned knowledge is now boiling in that pot.
Hey, that's something. How about a sample? Gee, not much taste to it.
Well, how much taste do you expect from boiled water?
How much taste do you expect from boiled water?
Whoa! Wow, that's so cool. I was just skimming through those like, please.
That was so long ago, but I could just hear him while trying so hard to act. I could hear it, just really trying to get it down.
Wow. Have you reconnected? Oh,
That's funny.
have you reconnected with any of the other kid voice actors from that show since, or not?
Yes.
Oh,
The
really?
lead character of that show, this is a little weird, but the agent who booked me on that show was from an agency called Charles Stern Agency, right? And a guy who worked there named Don Pitts was my dad's agent, became my agent. So there were two kids on that show who played the two lead twin brothers, Greg. Well, their characters' names were Oliver and Ralph. And they had stage names because their last names were actually Stern because they were Charles Stern's kids, right? But they were good. They deserved the job. So Greg Stern, I found out many years later, owns a company called Butler, Shine and Stern, which is an advertising agency. And I worked in advertising for years. So we reconnected that way. And we could not believe that we were both working in advertising and so much time had passed and all that. But I don't believe, except for Don Full of Love, I don't think anybody else went on to do voice acting, I don't think, but they weren't really looking for actors. They were looking for kids, it was a different time. So I don't know if anybody else is still, I don't think so, but I don't know.
It says here, during the same 1972 to 1973 season, a spin-off called We Pals on the Go was aired by KGO-TV, the ABC-owned and operated station in the San Francisco Bay Area. This live-action Sunday morning show featured child actors who portrayed the main characters of Turner's comic strip, Nipper, Randy, Sybil, Connie, and Oliver. I don't know, did you play Connie in this, or was it like...
No, I've never heard of that before. And I'm pissed that I didn't even get to read for it. So I'm gonna call somebody. Who do I call about? Wow, how weird.
Jules Bass is still alive. Arthur Rankin died in 2014.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll call him later and see if he can make it up to me somehow.
I'll have to bring it a comeback or something. Yeah, they are using child actors a lot more to this day, to be fair, because I've seen that in a few American cartoons, especially if it's like a lead character, like who was a kid.
Yeah. In movies, they kind of do that more, but I think they have more time in movies, so they can just go and go and go and go until they get it right. TV is generally a little tighter. But I've worked with kids, like on Recess, that whole cast was a lot of kids in that show. Actual children were in that show.
Yeah.
So
someone went on to do a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think who was it? One of them passed away recently, one of the cast members.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Was it Mikey? The kind of heavyset kid? I think it might have been him. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember his father was like a big producer.
Jason Davis, fentanyl overdose.
Yeah.
Accidental. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Trying to think. Oh yeah, Pamela Adlon was in it. She was Spinelli. Ashley. Ashley Johnson was Gretchen. Yeah, and then
she's young then too. Yeah. And what's his name?
Cortland Mead.
Portland, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember an episode where Ashley Spinelli spends the night at Miss Finster's house.
Yeah, Weekend at Muriel's.
Weekend at Muriel's.
There was a song in that one about I'm a hula hula baby and a hula baby. Yeah, I remember that.
Well, that's one of my favorite episodes.
A lot of people say that. I have a reel, she was like, I'm always trying to get her to eat liver or something. Good news, we're having liver. Yeah, I remember something like that. And I have a CD somewhere. I should find it. If I find it, I'll dub it off and I'll send it to you. And it was outtakes from the show.
Really?
So they would, there's a gag reel at almost the end of every cartoon where it's the horrible, stupid mistakes that you make and people laughing, and they put it all together on a reel, and it's the gag reel.
Yeah.
And there's a Pam, I have not a very clean mouth. I'm just gonna, I'm really holding it together for this interview, but I curse a lot. I have never met anybody who curses like she does. She's phenomenal. She's like a world record holder. And that reel is so funny because she has that little voice, and it's kind of her own voice, and this stuff comes out and you're like, oh my God, it's great. That's one of my pleasures, is hearing people in their cartoon voices having meltdowns and cursing. And I just think that's hilarious. I love that. Have you ever heard the outtakes reel from the Thundercats where they're all just losing their minds? And I'll send that to you. It's super funny. In fact, it's on my site, I think. There's not much there, but if you go to aprilwinchell.com, there's an MP3 library. And if you look like maybe halfway down or something, it says outtakes and bloopers and things you weren't supposed to hear. And there's outtakes from Thundercats, and it's hilarious. It's really funny.
Interesting. I'm having a look. And in Recess, TJ's voice actor, his second voice actor, Andrew Lawrence, he's part of the Lawrence family, because I think he has like two other brothers who are actors. So you got Andrew, who has done Recess and stuff, and he's done Brotherly Love. And you got Matthew Lawrence, who was in Boy Meets World and Mrs. Doubtfire. Right. And then you got Joey Lawrence, who was in Gimme a Break, Melissa and Joey, and Fox and the Hound. So yeah,
right.
That's really
Fox and the Hound 2?
Pardon?
Fox and the Hound 2? Fox and the Hound 2?
I think so, yeah.
I was in that also. Yeah, because the real Fox and the Hound would be before he was born.
Yeah,
so
and
Fox
your dad was in the first one. He was Boomer, the little bird.
And I was in the second one, which I think is so funny. So yeah, I'm in a lot of the sequels of movies that he was in, which I think is really peculiar.
No, I think he was in the first one, actually. Yeah, 1980. Is it? Yeah.
Oh, might be so, right?
We're thinking of
when was the first?
I think. When
was
the first one was released in 1980. Ow! I just bit my tongue. That hurt. 1981. Or I'm probably thinking. What was it?
Well, it could have been, I guess.
I don't know. I remember. Trying to think. What was it? Oh no! It wasn't Fox and the Hound. He was Oliver and Oliver and Company.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I don't know why I got confused with that. I guess because I know they were some.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I know.
Yeah, my husband calls me the queen of the sequels because I'm in all part twos. I'm in Fox and the Hound 2. I'm in Pocahontas 2. I'm in Mulan 2. I'm in Emperor's New Groove 2. I'm never in the first one. I'm always in the second one. And even shows that like things that you would never think, like how do you do Hunchback of Notre Dame 2? I mean, he died in the first one, didn't he? How do you? But okay, so I'm in that one, and so I'm in all that. And in fact, sometimes I'll like if you're at a Comic-Con or something, and people come up to you and be like, "You were so good in something 2," and I'm like, I was not in that. I know I was not. I do not remember being in that at all. And then they're like, "Oh no, you were the donut. You were the talking donut," and I was like, I don't remember. And then you go home and you look on IMDb and you're like, I was in that. I don't remember it. Or you'll get a DVD from Disney, and you'll pick, and it'll be in the mail and be like, why did they send this to me? I'm not in this. Why did they? Oh, I am in this. And you have no recollection of it at all, Or you'll get a check and you'll be like, I was really? I was in there. Like I got this check the other day. Well, I do remember this show, but I got this check. Oh, Robot and Monster. I love that show. So I remember that show. But you get a check every once in a while. It's like for like 2 cents. You'll be like, what is the? Here's one. Okay. So I got this check the other day for $1.53. So I'm going to put a down payment on a gallon of gas. I'm pretty excited. And it's called Scooby-Doo Mystery Night Freight. I have no idea at all. Scooby-Doo Mystery Inc. Night Freight, $1.59. So
yes, there was an episode. I'm presuming that must have been royalties from that episode. You played Weena.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was Weena.
WEENA.
All right. And then I was in something called Child's Play. Legion of Superheroes. That was more frequently though. I mean, that was more recent, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember that. But you never know. I mean, it just all blends together after a while, and I'm like, oh, all right, okay. Well, I don't remember doing that, but all right. The best is when you get a check for a penny, and you're like,
indeed,
costs like 50 cents to mail it.
Oh, Corey Burton was in that as Brainiac, and you played Winnie Wazo, the president of the United Planets.
Wazo, yeah. So anytime I do something superhero related, my husband's like, oh, well, let me tell you who you are. Cause he's a huge Marvel guy and he's an animator too. So he'll be like, okay, well, so this was this part of the universe. And then you came here and then this is the Silver Age. And I'm like, okay. I'll say, did you ever hear of, I did an episode of, God, I don't remember what the name of the show is. Lauren Faust does it. And it's all like Wonder Woman, but they're like younger. And I don't remember the name of this show.
Justice League.
Yeah, Justice League. Thank you. And I play Antiope, which I guess is Wonder Woman's mother's sister. And I'll like get the script and I'll be like, do you know who Antiope is? Yes. And able to sit down. Well, here's how the universe worked. And this happened and this happened. And she came from this planet. And then and then your brother was, I'm like, okay, all right. Well, I have one line. So this is really helpful, but okay. So yeah, he gives me all the backstory. It's cute. He gets excited.
Nice one. And I would look at that episode of Mystery Night Fright. You also in it with obviously the mainstays Frank Welker, Mindy Cohn, Grey Delisle, Matt Lillard, and you also were with David Kay, Maurice LaMarche, and Cree Summer as well.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
I worked with Cree a lot. I've worked with Cree on a lot of stuff. She's lovely. She's so sweet and she's so beautiful. She's like a real pleasure to be around. So and that voice.
Yeah.
That voice. Oh. When I was first starting out in this business, like regular work, right? Like early 90s, right? I wanted to get into commercials and I didn't feel like I had a sound, right? So the people who were working at the time, a lot were like Demi Moore and a woman named Polly Draper. And they had these real raspy kind of, that was a very hot sound back then, you know, it was hot. And I thought, well, maybe I should sound like that. So I'd go in and I'd read stuff and I'd be like, if you try, and it wasn't right. I never booked anything. I thought, God, and my agent would say, well, these women have a signature voice. And I'm like, okay, I need a signature voice. I never booked anything. And then years later, after doing many, many, many cartoons, I get called in to read for something. And at the top of the script, it says April Winchell type. And I went, oh, I guess I am a signature. I mean, it never even occurred to me. I've been trying so hard to sound like someone else. I just did, right? I didn't get it, by the way, because I guess I didn't sound enough like April Winchell, but that's a good lesson though, like to people who are starting out thinking that they need to sound like somebody else or that they need to emulate somebody else. Like I'll hear a lot of reels, people send me reels and be like, what do you think? And they're all like, got, Bart Simpson on it. And it's like, somebody has that job. You don't need to do your own thing. You don't need, no one's ever going to hire you because you sound like Donald Duck. Find your own thing. It's a hard thing to do. But when you find it and you find your own, I always say, do what you do really well and do it better than anybody else.
That's a good idea, that.
People load up their skills with all kinds of things that they do very well because they want to look like they can do a lot. And it always sounds bad.
Yeah. April.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a little bit about my voiceover career?
About what?
My voiceover career.
Yes, please. You have a lovely voice. Let's hear about it.
Thank you. Well, it all started, I got my first job when I was 15. I'm 18 now. That shows how old I'm getting. So basically, I did this voice for a children's corn-operated ride. You can't really see it here, but it's a little picture here. It's of a helicopter. I did the sound effects on that, so I said things like "heli to tower, come in tower" and stuff like that.
Yes.
So
heli to come in tower.
Oh, yeah. I love it when I see Americans do British accent. I'm like, yes.
I can do like 30 of them from watching years and years of Trading Spaces because everybody else Changing Rooms. Because everybody there's like 15 different, but I'll tell you later. But go ahead, finish your story.
Okay. So I did that. That was mainly a favor for a kiddie ride company because I'm obsessed with them. I film them for YouTube. I travel all over the country. And the fact is, I used to be scared of these rides as a kid. And literally every single autistic person I've met loves them. And it's crazy. It's I don't know what it is, the chemistry of these rides. I've been trying to figure out for years. But I did that ride. I went to the unveiling of it in London in January 2020, just before the pandemic hit. And it was that. Give me a minute.
Stop slapping yourself. Don't punish yourself like that. Stop hitting yourself.
I don't know that kind of comment. Sorry. Oh,
Oh my God. It's those ears on your headphones.
and I just kind of like bonk. I actually did it once and I ended up knocking my whole headset off and I actually started laughing. I was like, no. Okay, so I went to the unveiling of it, and just to hear it in real life, it was just surreal. I'm like to myself, yeah, you can do an impression of that. I'm like, yeah, because it's my voice. I'm like, it's so weird because I can still do the voice. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So there were about tons of models meant to be made. They only made 2 before the pandemic. There's one in storage in Yorkshire and there's one in Iceland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you hear your voice like that, isn't it? It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah. And
Very weird. Like that, sometimes at first you kind of hate how you sound, and then you kind of think, okay, I'm doing all right. I don't sound so bad. Yeah.
And my recent one is a theme park ride I've done. It's located in California. Not any specific theme park, but I voice a rabbit called Prestella who sort of talks a bit like a Wendy Darling. So it's like a sort of theme park ride that's been built. And basically, if any theme park companies see it and they're interested in investing in it, they'll just say, yeah, sure, we want this, and they'll put it in their park, like Six Flags or something. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's cool.
Thank you. I've been trying to get out to California for like the longest time.
Wonderful. How exciting.
Thank you.
Just when you hear your voice in public like that, it's just crazy. I was at Disneyland once and they were doing a parade that I was in was happening. And it didn't click until I realized the parade came and I was like, oh my God, you guys, I'm in this. And here comes this parade. And there's some dude in like a giant cow head trying, doing what he's like, hi, I'm gonna make some muffins. I said, this is it is so surreal. Because when you're in that booth, am I right? That's like, you have no idea that you're just in a little room or you're at your own mic. It doesn't even occur to you that people are gonna hear it, and then when you're in the world and you see it, it's just insane. Yeah, it's cool. And when you hear yourself in a movie too, you're like, it's weird. It's weird. Yeah, weird.
That's me. Yeah.
It's weird.
So cool because I've been trying to. I've actually started sending demos off to a few US agents that have been recommended to me who say they take on UK talent. So
you've got a great voice, and I love that accent. I just love
thank you. They were like, oh yeah, it's easy to get jobs in America because of your accent. I'm like, wow, it's easy to get jobs in my own home country. Thank you for the advice.
I'll get scripts that'll say native British, and you're like, because I can there's a lot, I could approximate a lot of the regional dialects because, as I said, I watched Changing Rooms over and over and over again. Everybody's different. Like, Linda Baca would talk about putting in shitters, new shitters. And then what's her name? Carol Smiley would talk about, we've got new fleurs, and she's from Wales. And she like, and then there's a posh, the real posh kind of like, Linda Baca has a little bit of that, she's very posh. And then there's Auntie Andy, yeah? And Auntie Andy's more like working class, like, yeah, we're putting nails in that, yeah? And so everybody's like a little, and I would just watch that for just like transfixed. And then you'll get like a script and be like, okay, I can do this, and you do it. And they're like, yeah, we're looking for native British speakers. And you're not.
Yeah, well, if you
can, you should call Amber then.
If you get a call for a British casting, British cartoon, I
will do that.
I was going to say, you should come to me for advice, and I'll give you advice on like what to do and stuff.
All right. Well, actually, if I get something like that, I'll call my agent and have her calling you because they're looking for specific British talent. I don't think they care if it's local or not local, and why not, right?
Would I have to be part of SAG? Would I have to be part of the union over there? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. Depends on the job, I guess. And then there's rules where you don't have to be, and you can work as much as you want in union jobs for 30 days, and then you have to join stuff like that. There's all kinds of it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a bad problem to have, right? To have to figure that out.
Yeah, I'll look into it, definitely, for sure. I gotta admit, there is a lot more stuff that we need to talk about than I actually expected. So I think at some point we need to do a part 2. Because that is not half the stuff on my list that we've crossed off.
Anything you want.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to.
Anything interesting enough? I mean, was this interesting?
Of course, it was interesting. Yeah, of course. Why would I say it wasn't? I mean, we need to do a part
I
two.
don't know. It's like, maybe you have things you want to talk about, and I'm blathering about, how nice Corey Burton is, and maybe I'm, maybe.
Oh yeah. Speaking of Corey Burton, are you in touch with him? Are you in touch with Frank Welker? Anything?
I have not talked to either of them in a while because I don't live in LA anymore. But I mean, I work on shows with them. We just don't see each other. Can I just tell you my favorite Corey Burton story? It's a little. Do you have time for? Okay.
Go ahead.
So there was a big earthquake in California, probably like 20 plus years ago, and Corey's house was just demolished, and he wound up living. They put him up in the Disney hotel while he was getting his house fixed. Right?
How has he never told me this? He never told me this because I've known him for 2 years.
I don't know. So I said to him, yeah, you tell him about that. He was living in a hotel for years while they were fixing his house, right? So you can ask him about it. So I said to him, so he comes to work and he's got like a bandage and he's all slinged up and everything. I said, what happened? He goes, well, you know how he talks. He goes, well, the waterbed, all the water went like this, and then all the water went like that, and it slammed me into the wall, and I dislocated my shoulder. So it's terrible because, he's like so, small and, it's so delicate, and he busted himself up. And I said, well, that's terrible. He goes, well, that's not the worst of it. I said, well, what happened? He goes, well, 2 of my chickens were killed when the furniture fell over on them. And I said, oh, that's terrible. And he goes, yes, Mrs. Goofy and Mrs. Noisy. And I said, and I thought about it later, and I thought, so the chickens were in the house because of the furniture.
Yeah.
His chickens were in the house.
I can tell you this, what I've found out from him, because I did talk to him for a few years. We don't talk anymore, but so I knew him for 2 years. He helped me on my Bill Scott documentary. I believe your dad worked with Bill Scott on Adventures of the Gummy Bears. So Corey helped me with that. I interviewed him for it, and then we were in touch for about 2 years. And then we parted ways, which I'll probably explain off camera because I don't really want to say about it publicly because I'm like anyways, because I'm such a blabbermouth. I spoke to him and he did tell me about all his animals. He has like a tortoise, he has cats, he has a pig. Yeah, he has a pig. He has a squirrel. He actually sent me a picture of him holding a little squirrel. I'm like, oh my god!
I completely believe it. I totally buy that. I can see him with a little squirrel.
I'll have to try and find it.
That's hilarious.
I'll have to try and find it actually because I definitely get it on my phone.
What the chickens were doing in the house, but that's just something I've been thinking about for years, and I guess I'll never know.
Oh, it's from the oh. Bless. Oh wow. Yeah, I'll have to show it. Just looking back at my combos with him, I miss him. I really do miss him. Like
he's a nice man.
Yeah. What's your best Frank Welker story? I'm seeing him in Edinburgh and I've met him 3 times virtually. Once in person.
Anytime they need a noise, they just ask Frank. And it's not, at first I thought it was animals, because he does all the animals. He does snarling, dogs. He's got that great that sound that he does. And he does cats and dogs fighting and multiple animals at once. And you're like, Jesus, how does anybody do that? But it's more than that. So, I remember doing cartoons and they'll say, okay, we need a swarm of animatronic crickets to come in and Frank, and you're like, okay, and he'll just do it. And he seems to be able to make like multiple sounds at once. Like, how are you doing that? He's like the animation corollary to a beatboxer. Do you know what I mean? He can like make all these sounds at once and stuff you could never, like, what does a robot cricket sound like? I don't know. Okay, we need a very angry cloud to come in, and it gets the cloud is sentient, and it gets into a whirling fight with some leaves. Can you? Oh yeah, okay. And it comes out, and you're like, well, of course that's what that sounds like. I've never known anybody who can. That's one of his many. He can do great voices, but that's a real specific gift that I've never heard anybody be able to do. And every show I've been on that he's been on, he's played all the animals and all the creatures and all the
he does Figaro and Butch in Mickey Mouse Funhouse and Minnie's Boutique and Mixed Up Adventures and stuff. Yeah,
and I think he was all the dogs and cats and Goof Troop, which is funny to think that there are dogs in Goof Troop considering that they are dogs.
Not anthropomorphic. Yeah,
I did a press junket when Goof Troop first came out. We did a press junket for it, and it was a big deal because Goofy hadn't had a show in a long time. And so we're at Universal Studios, and we're at this big dais with all the stars and the people from the studio and everything. And this girl gets up and she goes, "Excuse me, but does Goofy have a wife?" Well, no, there's no wife in this show. She's a single dad, and Max is his son, so we don't ever see the wife. Okay. Well, who was the wife? Well, it's never shown and we don't really know. Okay. Because in Goofy's day at work in 1956, when he goes to work, a human arm comes out with a bag lunch and gives it to him, and he takes it to work. Now, does that mean that Goofy's wife was a woman, was a female human? And the head of the studio is like, I don't know. It was in the thing, and so that's canon, right? It's canon. It was in the form. He's like, well, okay, if it's canon, then I guess maybe it was human. Okay, so are you saying that Disney condones bestiality? And we're like, oh my god. And she's like, it's just like, how do you get a moment in a Disney cartoon? But people are very serious about it. Very serious.
Yeah.
I get asked that stuff. Well, who's Max's mother? You're like, I don't know. I just work here.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. You just do the voices.
Well, just read what's on the page, and that's it.
Yeah.
I did an episode of Mickey Mouse Funhouse yesterday. And you don't always see the script, right? And if you come in later to do the what ADR is probably, right? So for people who don't know, ADR is automated dialogue replacement. So when they get the animation back, sometimes the lips are off and this doesn't match up so good. So they'll have you come in and just read the line a little differently so it matches up really well with the way the lips are animated to move. Because it's easier for you to change it than to go back to and redraw everything, right? So usually it's little things like, so you need to put a little thing in front of it. It's not a big deal. Or they'll change the line completely and you just try to match as best you can. So you don't always have the information. So I go in yesterday and I have one line, and the line is, it's not even ADR. It's just not even to picture. It's just a pickup. And it says, "Here, Donald, here's your soup." And it's Clarabelle. "Here you go, Donald, here's your soup." And I said, "What's happening in this scene? Why?" "Oh, okay. Well, you're very happy to give him the soup because he hasn't eaten all day." And I say, "Okay, why hasn't he eaten all day?" They said, "Oh, because of the curse." So I thought, I don't really have to ask. Because
This is Kelly telling you this, right?
Yeah. So I thought I don't really have to ask because it's not going to really inform my line reading one way or the other. It's a simple line reading, right? I thought, okay, it's killing me, right? So I go, "What curse? What's the curse?" And Kelly says, "Oh, well, in this episode, everything that Donald touches turns to clams."
Oh.
I said, okay. And I turn around and look at the script, and it's called "The Curse of the Krusty Clam." And that was it. I laughed for like 2 minutes. I was just wheezing, and I could hear Kelly in LA going, we couldn't stop. Because you're serious for a long time, and then every once in a while the surreal nature of the whole thing kicks in and you just have to laugh. So I'm talking like a cow about a duck who turns everything to clams. And I thought, okay, I just say the words. That's all.
Mm-hmm, indeed you do. I remember an episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse very fondly. I think it was called Sleeping Minnie. Basically, like Minnie fell asleep after smelling a rose, and then they had to go get like a magic harp, and then
oh yes,
Clara was like the one to tell them what to do and stuff. So
the glass piano, and yes,
that's stuck in my head for the past 15 years.
That's the triangle bush one, right? Is that the one that they did like on Talk Soup? They did the clip got real famous because Clarabelle's talking about a triangle bush, and
I think so. I can't remember. I haven't seen the episode in years.
And she's talking about, she's like, well, you find the triangle bush and then you push the button until the fireworks go off. And you're like, really? Come on, you guys know.
Guess even worse, Goofy once said, "Oh yeah, and there's the caboose." I'm like, yeah, because people now have a tendency to add the suffix "ussy" in front of items. I think you can guess what term I'm referring to. So when Goofy's like, oh, and there's the Kabussi, the internet was just like,
Yeah. There's a lot of, and you think you gotta know, right? And you'll say, do you know? And they're like, no, I don't know what you're saying at all. I did one the other day where Clarabelle goes, I'm having a lot of problems with my kitty. And I went, come on, you guys know what this is. They're like, no, just say it. We'll just record it and let's go home.
I think she has a cat. Does she have a cat? I don't know. Unless speaker opens.
Well, she has a weasel. I guess I'm not giving anything away, but she's allergic to cats in this series. And she finds a cat that she's not allergic to, and nobody can tell her, they don't have the power to tell her it's actually a weasel.
Oh, I see.
So she's got a weasel named Sneasel, I think, that is her cat.
Interesting.
I just say the words and then I go home.
Yeah. Of course you do. Wow. Oh my god, my cheeks have so much. Yeah. Let's have a look at the timer. Oh, we have surpassed an hour.
Yay!
Ooh, yay!
All right. Well, another step in where you can use. I assume you'll excise out anything that's not interesting. So.
Oh no, it's okay. I just keep the majority of it in because I'm too lazy to add it. Yeah. You know. But okay, so I'm gonna do a fake outro now, and then I'll probably say goodbye to you. So don't go anywhere. Okay, good. So April, where can we find you on social media? Do you have a website?
I have none. I have no social media. I do have my website, aprilwinchell.com, but there's nothing on there except some terrible music that I've collected over the years. So feel free to go and download whatever you like, but I don't do social media other than that.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. To you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF. Go check out April's website and look at the music that she's got, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends if they're interested in my interviews, because I don't have a lot of people watching my interviews. They're not as popular as my other videos. I don't know why I'm talking too fast. I'm just showing off, I guess. Wow, I feel like John Machita.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Oh my god! Yeah, I was gonna say because I was talking to, who was I talking to the other day? I'm trying to think of who. I think it might have been I'm trying to think. I could be wrong. Ron Corsillo and Russ Carney. They're a pair of writers. I think it might have been them. Yeah, I think it was. And I started talking fast, and I was going to say, oh yeah, I feel like John Machita. And then one of them brings up John Machita. I was like, oh my god, I was just about to mention him.
That's obscure, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I interviewed
him. He's really cool. He was Blur in the original Transformers.
Funny. Great.
He's great. Yeah, he got married recently. Yeah, he married his boyfriend. So yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm happy for him.
I bet the vows were very fast.
I know. I can imagine them. I'm gonna have to ask him. After this. Indeed. So, to you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode. I'm not going to bother saying the whole speech again, but I just want you to stay safe, stay happy, be kind to yourself, and we'll see you around. Bye. And I can't stop. April, have you frozen?
No, I'm here.
Oh no, you're still here. Sorry, I thought you froze, so I didn't want to, end it or something like that. Yeah. And cut.